The game had come to an end. Liger Sword Saint was smashed fiercely on the ground by Tang San. However, San still had a confounding spectacle for the spectators to witness. He swooshed the Saint back and forth multiple times to entirely cripple his body. Not only were the viewers, but the remaining two teammates of Saint were also stunned by the ruthless attack on their master. Wu Bingji took advantage of the situation and killed both of them. When Saint couldn't stand the torturer anymore, he requested San to stop it. He put forward the condition that if San submitted himself, then he would help him fuse his bloodline power. In fact, he would even help him become a divine entity, as he was highly powerful in his bloodline. San's expressions indicated that he didn't have any interest in his aid. He told Saint that if he wanted to get rid of the torment, then he should scream out loud. If that wasn't possible, then he would be killed. It was a practical tactic by San because he knew Saint didn't have enough strength remaining in him to shout or yell. Though he wanted to live because there were a bunch of people in his clan whom he had to take care of, he couldn't give his affirmation to San. He felt as if his throat had been anesthetized. He couldn't feel any sensation. When there was no reply from him, even after a few minutes, San picked the hint that he was a man of great courage who would die instead of bending in front of his enemy. As what was decided, he lifted his armor to finish him off. Saint's pupils narrowed as he saw the heavy sword approaching him. He wanted to scream badly on top of his throat, but he couldn't even whisper a word. After concentrating all his remaining strength on his throat, he managed to mutter a meow. Unfortunately, speaking out that little word cost him his life. He completely ran out of strength and blacked out at the spot. The whole crowd, which was full of monstrous demons, was astounded by the sudden breakdown of a highly powerful member of their clan. The commentator announced that the game had officially ended and the Shrek team was the winner. Though the results were compatible with the statistics, the human race being winners was highly unexpected for the rulers of the Coliseum. The messenger, who was watching the live scenes, called Ying Ji, the Coliseum master, to inquire about the unexpected results. A human team winning all 10 battles was a great threat to their monster race. Ying explained that it was quite a blow for him as well to witness them as winners, because San wasn't even the team captain. He was just an ordinary team member who killed the most powerful competitor. It appeared as if he was hiding his true potential from them, but everything had been revealed now. The messenger expressed his anger and said that humans couldn't qualify as spiritual leaders. Since that one kid seemed to be a threat to their kingdom, he ordered the master to get him killed in any possible way. However, he was saved from making an impulsive decision because of Ying Ji's wisdom. He said that it wasn't wise to break the rules of the Coliseum merely for the sake of a little kid. It was better to think of another way. The messenger instantly came up with another idea. Dodging the rules wasn't possible for them, but sending San and his team to the Grand Coliseum was an option. If he were sent there for further competitions, then he would definitely be defeated, because there were much stronger teams there to fight him. Coming back to the scenes at the arena, San ordered his team to leave as soon as possible before the audience could catch their breath. As far as the Sword Saint's body was concerned, San dragged it along with himself as a prize for winning the battle. It became necessary for them to leave immediately because the audience consisted entirely of the ugly monsters. They were infuriated by the defeat of their race and could erupt any moment to attack the Shrek team. There were only 20 human spectators who came to support their team. However, they couldn't dare to cheer for the winners due to being encircled by monsters of all kinds.
Do you want to know the name of this manga, along with all the manga names of the recaps we did in our channel? How about also the chapter numbers our recaps end? You can simply ask the names in our Discord community for free or become a donor to get them all in one place. You can either be a donor in Patreon or be a member in our YouTube channel. Just scan this QR code or go to the link in the description to become a donor. Moreover, becoming a donor automatically makes you a VIP member of our Discord server with over tens of thousands of members.
Within a split second, the news of the Shrek team's 10-game winning streak rapidly spread throughout Cary City. The entire city boiled up. The unwillingness of humans to be enslaved by the monsters all erupted at that moment. Humans danced in the streets in excitement. The Shrek team was like a flame of hope that burned in every human vassal's heart. Just as happy as all the humans were, there was a strange kind of fear deep down in every monster's heart. They were afraid of San's exceptional strengths. Anyhow, the Liger Saint sword was now San's slave as per the rules of the Coliseum. He carried his body to the bloodlust demon ape and asked him to heal his injuries. The ape bent in respect and agreed to his commandments. He was also afraid of his supernatural powers. After all, a human winning 10 battles straight wasn't a child's play. He delivered Master Ying Ji's message to the Shrek team that he wanted to have a word with them. San and his teammates headed towards the Master's office. Ying Ji was already waiting for their arrival. As soon as they arrived, he congratulated them on breaking all records in human history. After winning the contest heroically, San was elected as a member of the Nobility. Preparations for officially registering him had already been made. Now that he was a part of the nobles, the master inquired about his future plans. San replied that he didn't quite have any specific plans, but they were all general. He wanted to work as hard as possible to become a divine entity. It didn't matter how long the journey took. All that mattered was the final result. His strength was undoubtedly more than enough to reach his goals, but the goal he had wasn't an ordinary one. It couldn't be achieved without any resources. The fact that he was a human would make it even more difficult to reach that level. Becoming a noble wouldn't give him any advantage in that case because he belonged to a non-monster race. The only way out was to get protection from a great family that belonged to the demon's race. San sighed in despair because he wasn't backed up by any influential family. It was a shame that there wasn't any way out for him. However, it didn't appear to be much of an issue because Ying-ji had already sorted out a plan for it. He lineated from the rhinoceros deer demon race, and it was pretty simple for him to accommodate the Shrek team. Though it was a kind gesture by Ying-ji, San didn't fall into his trap. He denied it by saying that it would cause him trouble, as the whole human nation had his eyes on him. They would be deceived if he collaborated with the demons to win his goal. Perhaps it was the first time San was about to make a mistake by denying the master, but fortunately, Ying-ji was kind enough to explain the pros and cons of his decision. There was a lot to the backstory of Ying-ji's offer. The messenger of the ancestral court was already dissatisfied with the human team winning the battle. Out of discontent, he had ordered Ying-ji to lead San to participate in the grand Coliseum of the ancestral court. The ancestral court was indeed a very dangerous place. The humans were highly unlikely to stay alive there. However, since Ying-ji had empathized with the Shrek team due to personal benefits, he came up with the idea that they should join his clan. In that way, he would have a reason to mediate for them at the ancestral court. In the absence of his support, the traces of the humans would be wiped away if they made even the slightest mistake. If they associated themselves with Ying-ji's family, he could arrange for them to only suffer injuries as a result of their mistakes, rather than being killed. They would be brought back into the game after healing. He said that he would make them appear disabled intentionally, so that the enemy's attention would be diverted. San was quite impressed with the master's plan and his goodwill towards them. He really wanted to go to the ancestral court to find the master of the array. Ying-ji's support would make it much easier to achieve the goal, thus he took no time to accept his offer. It was finally decided that they would go to the main Coliseum with the master's support. Before the meeting ended, San requested the master to introduce them to the lord of the city. He had always been full of admiration for the city lord. Ying-ji apologized that he couldn't introduce them because the city lord was in seclusion. The meeting could probably be arranged after they returned from the ancestral court. It wasn't an issue because San didn't keep any high expectations in his mind. He was ready to wait as long as required to meet his ideal personality. After deciding upon all matters with his teammates, San told Ying-ji that his team would leave for the ancestral court within a month. Ying-ji invited San and his friends to stay at his residence as the sun was about to set, and it wasn't safe to travel outside. The next day, the formalities for nobility were carried out. San was officially registered as a noble personality. Noble humans were allowed to invest in properties and hire slaves. Their higher status made them compatible with the monster races. For that purpose, the rhinoceros deer demon king allotted 5 big houses in the most prosperous area of Cary City to San. Indeed, he was a generous man. San and his companions moved to those houses for a few days. Because ancestral messengers were patrolling around the city at all times, the Shrek team members stayed in seclusion. About 3 days later, he used his teleportation array to go back to the Redemption Academy. He met his teacher and other fellows there and discussed his future plans with them, and then returned back home to Cary City. A few days passed just like that. Everything was going smoothly until the 10th day. The 10th day was rather a special one. On that day, the existence that San had been waiting for finally appeared. The Liger sword saint, who was enslaved by San, had been brought back by the bloodlust demon ape. He informed him that Liger's inner injuries had been healed and his cultivation was sealed. Now, he couldn't carry out any specialized skills. With that, the monster ape left and handed over the matter to San. He took him inside and asked him to sit on the couch to have a word with him, but Liger's rebellious attitude didn't let him sit calmly. He still dared to negotiate with him, but San rebuked him and made him realize that he was his slave who had no right to argue with his master. Being a slave, he needed to watch the tone of his voice. When he asked him about his cultivation goal, Liger said that he wanted to become the great demon emperor. San was surprised to know about his goals. He had not heard about a Liger great demon emperor ever in history. In addition, it wasn't physically possible for him to become one due to his dual bloodlines. He told Liger to be very clear about the 2 golden lion and golden tiger bloodlines in his body. If he intended to break through to the divine level, then he must first resolve the conflict between both bloodlines. Because he was the offspring of the two lion and tiger clans, he could be regarded as hard-fated. Such individuals had the slightest chance of survival. It appeared as if San had a good knowledge of his clan's secrets. When Liger inquired about it, he said that his dual bloodlines were evident when he was fighting him back on the battlefield. It wasn't difficult to judge his true nature because of the clash among his bloodlines. He admired Liger's good fortune because he was the only one who had survived up till that age. The rest of his clan wasn't as lucky as him because they died either at birth or at the time of cultivation due to the unbearable burden of the clashing bloodlines. Though bitter, the fact was a verity that their clan was cursed by the heavens. Liger emotionally broke down upon hearing all that. He was very well aware of the misfortune of their clan, but there was no way to solve it. Out of the blue, San said that he had a solution for it. He himself had the power of multiple bloodlines, which meant that he was in the same boat as Liger. The two of them, if they cooperated well, could get rid of the curse. However, the solution was a costly one. He was ready to pay a fortune for it, but demanded something in return from Liger as well. Liger was an intelligent fellow. He could go to any extent for the sake of his clan's betterment. He didn't have any monetary belongings and thus offered to become San's servant for all his life. Unexpectedly, San said that he didn't need him as a servant. Instead, he demanded his clan to become his allies. Liger's expressions enlightened all of a sudden. The favor San asked for was much simpler than being enslaved. He instantly agreed to accommodate him. Because he was the #1 powerhouse of his clan, his elders would agree to him on becoming allies with the Shrek team. When San was confident of his support, he asked to be taken to his village. Liger was more than happy to take him along. Without delaying, San unsealed Liger and used the transmission format to teleport to the middle of Kerry Mountain. Liger staggered as they reached there. He had no idea about the teleportation mechanism. He was in such a big shock that he couldn't move his feet. But San reminded him that they had to reach the safe zone as soon as possible, and the teleportation explanation could wait. Getting hold of his senses, Liger navigated the way to his clan, which was situated to the west of Kerry City. On their way, the two of them talked about the predicament of the Liger clan. The pioneer Liger was born from a golden lion and a golden tiger. As per the statistics, 80% of the Liger offspring died at birth or at a young age. Those who survived became extremely powerful. However, most of them still died at an adult age. It was a very serious issue that was causing problems for both the parent clans. The elders believed that it was a curse brought on by forbidden love. To end the matter by its root, they decreed that intermarriage between the two clans be prohibited. Since then, the Ligers were exiled and expelled from their territory. They had been living a miserable life ever since. The living conditions were very adverse. However, the Ligers had existed in dire circumstances because many people from the two parent clans were still secretly reuniting, resulting in an expansion of the Liger clan. The clan had around 200 clansmen, many of whom were suffering from bloodline conflicts and sickness. Out of the 200, Liger Saint Sword was the strongest. He utilized his exceptional combat abilities to make money for the betterment of his clansmen by participating in battles held in the Coliseum. His wife recently went through a miscarriage and got extremely weak. To afford a better treatment for her, he exchanged heaven and earth treasures. Keeping in mind the adverse situations that Liger Saint had lived through, it was very natural for him to get excited when San said that he could solve their bloodline problem. The discussion was so hooking that they lost track of time. They didn't even realize how quickly they reached their destination. The Shirhu village, where the Liger clan resided, was just a few meters ahead of them. When they reached the entrance of the village, they saw two people rushing towards them as if they had bad news to break. As they neared, they shouted loudly that they had been waiting for the Saint's return at the entrance of the village because his wife faced a big problem. Saint was taken aback to hear about his wife. The two strangers told him that she had collapsed and was on her deathbed. She had been holding out only to wait for his return. Liger Saint burst into tears. He wanted to rush to visit her, but San stopped him from doing so. He counseled him that his wife was holding out till she met him. If he actually went over to visit her, then she would be relieved and would truly be dead. In order to keep her alive, he must not show up. He was somewhat right with his school of thought. Liger dropped down to San's knees and begged him to save his beloved wife. He was ready to become his slave in return for that favor. San gently lifted him up and affirmed that he would try his best to save her. He asked the two strangers to take him to Saint's residence and asked Saint to wait outside. The two men who came with the bad news took San to the sister-in-law. She was lying ill on her bed, waiting for her husband to return. When she saw that the men had returned, she inquired about Saint. San comforted her by saying that he had gone to fetch some medicines for her. He introduced himself as a doctor who had come to cure her and asked for permission to take a quick diagnostic look at her. As he went closer, he examined that the female Liger's body was very weak. She was almost depleted of blood. He gently placed his palm on her neck and infused energy into her body with the mysterious heaven skill. As the energy made its way into her veins, she felt a little soothed. Even though the aura of her body was weak, the two bloodlines dwelling in her repelled each other strongly. The point of communication between them radiated a strong golden light. The energy infused into her body targeted the rays of golden energy and rolled them up. The rolled-up rays gradually became less irritable. A few seconds later, the two rays, one from each bloodline, blended together, resulting in the birth of a new bloodline. The fusion process was highly energy-consuming. It cost almost 80% of the bloodline energy, but the newly formed bloodline became mellower and exuded a warm white and yellowish light.